Welcome to the Color Me Japan channel. I'm your host, Robert Kelly, and today we will be discussing why are Japanese so fit? Is there some shaming going on? This was a question that, a visitor from the US, he asked me, and he's just visiting Tokyo, and he says, why is everyone so fit? why why everyone is so fit? And he asked me about shaming, is that culturally there and things like that. So I thought I would address that issue. The short answer is yes, there's tons of shaming. And I know that because I'm an overweight guy living in Japan for 64 years. Yeah, nothing to brag about here. I guess if I was in the States, I wouldn't feel so overweight because there are a lot of people who are way overweight. I'm about 25% overweight. And I live here, so I go through it every day. So let's discuss why Japanese are so fit. My version, I'm not an academic. I didn't study this. I didn't do research. I'm just telling you off of experience. It's no wonder that the Japanese are fit. So this is the famous, I think it is, the Shibuya, yeah, it is, the Shibuya Scramble walkway, right? And look at all these people. There's some overweight ones, but it's kind of hard to find an overweight person in here, right? Japanese are generally very fit. I would say I'm at about, I'm on the extreme. I would guess that if there are 100 people, random people lined up, Tokyo people lined up, I would be second from the bottom. There'd probably be one person out of 100 that's heavier than me, but by far they're very close to their ideal weight. Maybe slightly over, but very close. So why is that? Well, it's no wonder if you find out what things in Japan. But here's some COVID statistics that I noticed. This is number of deaths per 100,000 people, right? And you got the U.S. And you need to look at the right side. It's how many per 100,000 people is on the right side here. Very high in the U.S., very high in the UK, Mexico, Russia way down, China way down, but I don't know how accurate those statistics are because they manipulate statistics. Philippines, Japan, South Korea, way lower, right? And every country collects data in a different way. So you can't really compare it because some countries, they wanted to make the deaths look bigger. So they collected the data in that way. So you can't really compare these data, but you can compare the order of magnitude. And as you can see, I think Japan's pretty good about data. They just report it as it is. And you notice it's way down there with South Korea. You also notice that the people are very fit in Japan. South Korea, too. Other Asian countries, not so much, like China on the coast, pretty overweight by Japanese standards. Not that I should be talking. Malaysia, I visit Malaysia a lot. Pretty overweight. So it's not an Asia thing. Maybe it's an East Asian thing. I don't know. But as you can see, looks to me like the statistics are suggesting that obesity and COVID deaths are very closely related. Right? It's not age because Japan is the oldest country, the country with the highest elderly population out of all of these countries on this chart. So it's not age, it's obesity. So what this data is suggesting to me, just broadly, is that if you're fit, you're healthier, which is kind of common sense. So why are Japanese so fit? So one, exercise. Do they exercise a lot? Dining. What are their eating habits? diet. They're so fit, maybe they don't diet. Or do they? Is there a lot of shaming going on? And these are the things I'd like to discuss. Number one, exercise. And the number one exercise, if you live in Tokyo, this is your average commute time per day, 1 hour, 42 minutes. So it's a little less than 1 hour each way, door to door. That means every day you're on your feet for almost 2 hours just commuting. Right? I used to live about an hour and a half from the office, so 3 hours a day. I was either walking to the station or biking, because you don't drive in Tokyo or the big cities. And I'm on the train, no seats. These trains are jam packed, so you're standing the whole time. And just imagine, try standing for 2 hours straight. It's really hard. It gets on your back, it does all kinds of things to you. It's good exercise. So although people aren't aware of it, Tokyo people are getting a lot of exercise just commuting to work every day, going back and forth to work. Now, in the countryside, people drive to work because there aren't trains all over everywhere, right? So way out in the boonies, people drive to work. And I would say my anecdotal sense is that they're probably a little bit heavier. They're not heavy compared to the US, but they're probably a little bit heavier than the city people, just because, they're just stepping on the gas pedal. So this is a huge difference between when you compare the US and Japan. US, everybody drives to work. A lot of Asian countries, people drive to work. So that's time they're sitting on their butts. Okay, other than this, so this is unintended exercise. On top of that, Japanese do exercise. If you go, to the river or, to parks and things like that, there are lots of people, mostly walking, some of them jogging. You go to the swimming pool, a lot of people swimming or walking in the swimming pool because the impact it's easier on your knees. And women love to do yoga and aloha dance classes. Not aloha, what's it called? What's the Hawaiian dance? I forgot what it's called. But there's all kinds of dance classes and ballet and all kinds of things that if you go to the gym, it's jam packed, mostly women. Women are better fit than men in Japan, but men are fit too. One starking difference in a Japanese gym is the weight room. In the US, my sense of a US weight room is there's a lot of macho guys in it. Right, and they pump hard, and their biceps are huge, and they're ripped. Right, they might have a stomach, but they're built. They bench press a lot. In Japan, that's very rare that you'll see a macho person. I think the ideal physique among Japanese is not your Arnold Schwarzenegger type of bodybuilder type of build, which seems to be the ideal in the US. It's much more of a Bruce Lee type of build. When you're wearing clothes, you look thin and fit. You take your shirt off and whoa, you're ripped. That's probably the ideal. So people do lighter weight, low impact exercise. And so they exercise a lot on top of the commute. Okay. Another thing, next part, food, diet. What do they eat? Well, the portions are way smaller. So right here in this chart, I'm sorry I couldn't get a higher resolution chart, but basically you're comparing a Japanese McDonald's cup, 300 milliliters. This is a small. This is a Burger King USA small. It's double the size, right? And if you take a Japanese large Coke, it's about the same size as a is a USA small, right? So the portions are just way smaller. Like I cannot imagine how could you drink over one liter at a time? It's just so much. I guess it's just a matter of getting used to. But portions are small, and Japanese do not order big Cokes. If they order a Coke, which they usually don't, they'll order a small one. And even this 300 milliliter to a Japanese person feels like a lot. Like, whoa, this is too big. I wish they had a smaller cup. So just drinks, the size of the drinks available. If you go to a vending machine, you know, the regular 12-ounce Coke, that's huge in Japan. You got one that's much thinner. So it's just living here, even if you don't choose it, you get smaller portions because portions are smaller. Here's a typical Japanese lunch. Well, kind of typical. Those are pot stickers, so they're not really Japanese. This is Chinese origin food. But you'll notice there's vegetables. There's not that much meat. There's only 5 pot stickers here, and there's rice because Japanese have to have their rice. And you notice there's a lot of greens. So it's fairly balanced. Not a great meal, but it's fairly balanced. This will probably cost you $5-6, something like this. Quick lunch. If this was in the US, there would probably be 3 times more at least. Like when I go to the US, when I visit the US, I like Europe because Europe, the portions are smaller and you can get smaller portions. And that's why I think that less people overweight in Europe. And plus they walk in Europe, I noticed. But when I go to the US, I mean, if I go to eat lunch, like I prefer to have a salad. So I might order a Caesar salad and then, I don't know, whatever else, right? A steak or whatever else. The Caesar salad is huge. It's a whole meal. It's bigger than a normal meal for me. So once I eat the Caesar salad, I have no space left over for the steak or whatever it is. So the portions are so large. But I noticed that my friends who moved to the States, you know, you're taught from a child, you know, don't leave food. There are people in this world who can't eat, you know, from poverty. So don't waste food. Eat all of it. If you're served, eat all of it. And I think a lot of us are raised that way. So we don't like to waste food, so we eat it all, even if it's hard to eat. But you keep doing that, and that becomes your new normal. And now a small lunch like this Japanese one will not fill you up. You'll feel like, what is this? Is this the appetizer? Where's the main meal? It's really small portions. But this is normal in Japan, so a Japanese person would be full just eating this. Right? That's a daily occurrence. And this doesn't matter if you're in the city or in the countryside. The portions are just way smaller and much more sensitive. And so, but what about dieting? Right? So the portions are smaller, Japanese exercise more naturally. What about dieting? Do they diet? You know, a lot of people who want to sell weight loss products and they think about entering Japan, they say, well, there's probably not a market for it here because everybody's so thin. They don't need to diet. Wrong. Very wrong. Japanese are obsessed with diet. They're always dieting. They're always watching what they eat. They're always checking on their calories. You know, and if a dress or shirt doesn't fit, if it starts feeling tight, oh no, I gotta lose weight. Boom. They're right on it. So the reason why they're fit is they're very, very conscious of their weight. Right? Not weight per se, but how their clothes fit. So does that mean they don't like sweets? You know, are they just healthy eaters? No, they love sweets. Especially Japanese ladies, girls, they love sweets. And they would love to have at it all afternoon if they could. They like to drink too. men and women. A lot of they like to drink, and that's also quite bad. But I guess what they do is they indulge themselves one day and then they hold back for 2 days to make up for what they overate. They must be doing that because Japanese don't they manage to maintain their weight somehow. So what about shaming? Is there fat shaming in Japan? Absolutely. Big time. But I don't know if that's a bad thing, right? As it's being portrayed in Western cultures, that it's a bad thing. You're constantly like I'm constantly conscious of my weight, and people don't have to come out and tell me, "Hey, you're overweight." I mean, everybody around me is so fit, and I look like a slob, and I'm quite aware of that, even if they don't point it out. So yes, when you're overweight, you're embarrassed to be overweight. And sometimes people come up to me and they touch my belly and they say, "Whoa, you got a baby in there?" Or or older women will come over and say, "Hey, I want you to lose weight because I'm really worried about your health. I want you to live as long as possible, as healthily as possible. So please try to watch your weight." So people will come up and say that to you. They have to know you fairly well in order for that to happen. But it doesn't matter. It's unspoken. You're constantly shamed. And in Japan, if you visited here, you will know that the tables are small, everything's small here. So when you're big, I mean, just sitting down at the table, going into the restaurant, between tables, pulling your chair, there's very little space. So if you're overweight, it's hard to get around. The chairs, the airplanes, the trains, everything's small, right? And you have to stand, walk a lot. So it's hard when you're heavier. So you're constantly, everything about Japan is reminding you should mind your fitness. So there is shame, and it's a very important part of it. I think that's what's driving the other things. They get a lot of exercise, they eat well naturally because that's how it's served in the restaurants. And they're very conscious of their weight, and they make adjustments. If they had a little bit too much today, the next 2 days they're going to hold back. I think that's what they do. Like I'm way overweight, and what I'll do is, when I get to a certain point, I'll say, "Oh, enough of this," and I'll diet and I'll lose weight. I'll lose 20 pounds or 10 kilos. And then when I'm happy, I go back to my old ways and I go up and down, up and down. Every 2 years, I'm really fat, and then I come down, and then, back and forth, back and forth. And I think the Japanese are doing the same thing, but are much shorter. They take control when they get even just 1 kilo over, 2 pounds over, boom. They're trying to control it. Gotta be. Otherwise, they wouldn't be. The whole population couldn't be this fit. But very fit. Average life expectancy is long, but that could be because of medicine, right? You could be on 100 different pills and be on machines and live a long time, but you're not living a good quality life, right? But I think Japanese generally are living a very good quality life, right up close to the point that they pass away. So it's just sensible. So if you lived here and you're overweight, the good news is you'll probably want to lose weight. You'll be motivated to lose weight. The bad news is you're going to feel ashamed of yourself, right? So be ready for that. But I think overall, I think it's sensible. It's better for everybody. Better, and you want your kids to live a long life and things like that. You want them to be healthy, and so shaming is bad, but maybe it's not so bad after all. That's my 2 cents on fitness in Japan. Thank you for paying attention, and challenge.